Excellent. So thank you, Karen. That was very motivating and a great way to kick off the conference. I'd like to now move into the next item on the agenda, which is something we've been working on for several months. It's a presentation of the survey that was performed by Pharma Ace back in the summertime. I guess it was just a few months back we completed. The survey was completed prior to the event, but there was an understanding of the real world barriers that exist that we were looking for. We're trying to understand what industry is thinking about the vision of advanced manufacturing technologies, how they apply those. Are they avoiding those? Is there opportunity for them to put those in place at a cost-effective way? So completing that event, we also had the presentation that Pharma Ace has performed for us. And I wanted to introduce both Tammy Fraley from Pharma Ace, and we'll also have Andre Adamo come up afterwards to provide some comments as well. So please welcome Tammy Fraley.
All right, can you all hear me okay? Okay, great. I am Tammy Fraley. I have been with Pharma Ace for 7 years now. I run the market research division. I'm the client partner for several companies. I'm not a scientist for any of you who try to ask me any technical questions, but I am a nurse. And I also worked with Brian and Kevin Webb and Don Luman at Mallinckrodt for 14 years before I moved over to Pharma Ace. So that's just a little bit about me. And today we're going to talk about what Brian mentioned, technology, adoption, barriers and drivers for why people might choose to have new technology available. So what are the table of contents for what we will go over today? We'll talk to you about the research methodology. Again, this is market research. This is not scientific research. So we'll talk about who the respondents were that participated. We'll give you the key insights, and I have an executive summary, but I may go past that so we can go through all the other stuff, and then we'll come back to the executive summary. There's detailed findings in here. We have experience and perceptions of what current technology is, what people are aware of today, and what they think about those technologies. We also have perceptions about continuous flow manufacturing specifically. And then we have thoughts about that continuous flow. And then there's an appendix which has a few extra slides, but we probably won't go through those today. All right, so what's the methodology? So we, as a company, we have partners who do the recruiting for us. So what we did was we targeted subject matter experts in the API and pharma manufacturing space as part of this research effort. We recruited respondents based on what their current role is, their years of experience involved in their organization, and kind of whether or not they were part of the key decision-making team that would make the decisions about new technologies being adopted. We had lots of different specialists here: staff scientists, principals, managers, vice presidents, research scientists, and we also got, we used a methodology that's kind of a hybrid. Because this is a very specialized audience, it's not like I can go out and hire a vendor that has a list of these people. So this was a custom recruit situation where they called in, made contact with people, and then guided them through the survey over the phone while they were on the web. Okay, so here's the key information areas that we'll talk about today, right? We're going to talk about the barriers and drivers to adopting the technology. And that's basically to look at the current mindset of folks and their preferences related to sourcing. And then we also assess the cost implications and how that might impact people's decision-making processes. We had various attributes related to the decision-making process included in understanding those key drivers and barriers. Then we have the evaluation of awareness and perception. And in that, we introduced different technologies to people. And then what we did was we asked them about their perceptions of those, how aware they were of them, et cetera, and what are the strengths and weaknesses of all those different technologies. Again, key drivers and barriers there too. We're assessing most technologies. And then as far as the future trends, wanted to understand what's the current and future volumes for APIs, like how are people thinking about that, and also analyzing the factors that relate to adoption of the technology. All right, so who were the people that we talked to? So 68% were male respondents. We had, most people were over the age of 40. All of these people who participated in this particular study were from the US. So we didn't have any international component to this. And these are all the current job titles. And you can see like where certain, more people showed up in certain buckets than in others, obviously. A lot of times it's really hard to get a hold of these people who are like VPs and stuff like that of companies. But we did have a nice mix, I thought, of respondents and, a good amount of folks who participated. Most people have 16 years of experience or more. And there still was quite a large amount of 1/3 of them who had 6 to 10. The size of the organization, now this was really just a subjective measure by the people who participated, whether they were a small, medium, or large organization. But as you can see, the majority of these folks, a little over half, were large facilities. And a lot of them have more than 5 manufacturing sites, about 1/3 of them. And then the others all said they have less than 5 manufacturing sites. We asked about how many years they've been in their current role. A lot of folks have been in their current role 5 years or less. And what their role in our organization is, a lot in R&D. That's the purplish 93%. And then most of the people, 63%, said they were part of the decision-making team on adopting new technology. But other people, if they said they were not part of the decision-making team at all, then they were excluded from the study. So everybody had to have some type of role in decision-making. I said, I'm going to skip past this just for a minute and go to the detailed findings. Okay, so what technology is used in manufacturing? What was interesting was when we asked this question, we asked, are you using batch flow? Are you using continuous flow? And we had people who said they are using both. Could be that they're using them at different manufacturing sites. That was not a question we asked, but most of them were in the both category, which was interesting. I think it was an interesting finding. People were really curious about that. And then technology adoption. A lot of them said they use the same technology across most of their manufacturing sites. And some of the things that they mentioned were separate sterile manufacturing, conservation techniques, and then ultrafiltration, intense purification, filtration, crystallization, flex batch, and perfusion systems and cell therapy. What's the perception of advanced manufacturing technology? So one question we did ask was, when was the last time that you updated some of your manufacturing technology? And you can see a lot of them said 2021 and 2022 were the years when people started making some changes in their manufacturing. And how familiar were they with manufacturing technology? So this was a scale of 1 to 5. So very familiar is 4 and 5 is expert. So the majority of these people are quite familiar with manufacturing technologies. What were the pain points they talked about? It was very interesting. We looked at this by what type of manufacturing processes they were using in their facilities. But you can see clearly a lot of people talk about inefficiencies all across the board. So that was one of the things that came up. And then you have some, like here you have API raw material shortages where it's in the both category. The next one over, cost effectiveness on batch processes only, as well as outdated technology. And then on continuous flow, the second one was API or raw material shortages. Those were the things that were popping up for folks. And if you see a red box around it, it means it's statistically significantly different between the different groups. Okay, awareness of levels of various advanced manufacturing technology. Everybody was aware of continuous flow. All 100%, all 40 people said they knew about it. Advanced analytics and big data, that was another one that came up as another important thing that people are doing within manufacturing. And then you can see some of the other ones that go down: Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, blockchain, virtual reality, 3D printing, robotics, etc. The fewest one that folks knew about was the digital twins. So what are the perceived benefits that they see in general of advanced manufacturing technologies, right? So this is not specific to continuous flow. But what they said was increased efficiency, and of course, we saw that in the previous slide, right? Where they said efficiencies are a problem. And then ease of scale up. And then the third one is cost reduction. They felt like the advanced manufacturing technologies can help them improve overall costs. And diversifying the supply chain. The environmental impact came up. A lot of these got high marks across the board. Hazard exposure enhances safety, minimizes exposure to hazardous materials, and allowing for increased US-based manufacturing. That one was kind of split 50-50. But they could, and I will say, they can pick more than one here. Like they picked it at as many as they thought were the advantages of advanced manufacturing. Here's a second slide. These are the barriers. So the top one that came up with all 100% of respondents was this idea that FDA requirements to approve the process would be a barrier for them. And also training personnel on new technologies came up as well. And the time that it would take to actually update the processes, and then the cost of adopting or investing in new technology. And obviously low profit margins still at 73% for the top two box, which again, like I said, is 4 and 5. What people said was about their willingness to invest in new technologies, and 23% said they were extremely willing. So they hit that very top category. And then others said very willing. I think the colors are flipped there. I can't tell. It's hard to read them. But anyway, the 65% should be the very willing, and 23% is extremely willing. And when did they say they would adopt this technology? A lot of people said within the next year. That's what we saw most of the time. The majority of folks, it was sometime within the next year. Then there was another group of people who said within the next 2 to 3 years that they would be adopting the technology. We asked about the likelihood that they would recommend continuous flow manufacturing, and 88% are very willing to recommend that to other people. So we didn't have anybody who said not at all or slightly willing. It was either moderately willing, very willing, or extremely willing. All right, we asked about what are the attributes. This is specific to continuous flow manufacturing. And people felt like it's increased efficiency, which we know is what they're looking for, right? Ease of scale up, improved product quality, and then you have the cost reduction situation, the environmental impact that they believe it could make, and minimizing the exposure to hazardous materials, and diversification of the supply chain, and then the allowing for U.S. increased base manufacturing. Here you see 63%, the other side we saw was 48 versus 52. So here there's a few more people who think that this could allow for more U.S.-based manufacturing. What are the initial perceptions of continuous flow? So advantages. They felt they would decrease their production times, that it would increase cost effectiveness and increase efficiency, and then reduce the environmental impact. Those were like the top 4. Others kind of fell to the bottom. Disadvantages, they were worried about high initial investment, how they would adopt the technology and implement it. That probably goes back to the training issue, right? Getting people up to speed on the new technology. Limited number of API production, undefined purity and downstream processes, regulatory hurdles, and then down the line. But those were some of the top things that came up for folks whenever we asked the questions. This is just a different data visualization to show you kind of how people perceive the challenges. So 55% up here, if we ask, and these are, just to let you know, these are open-ended questions. That's what we call them. It's basically you ask somebody to give you their ideas about things, and they're speaking freely, which is why you see, which I don't have the pointer, but over on the right-hand side, that these are some of the verbatim responses. So actually what people said whenever they were asked the question. So you can see they said cost could be a potential challenge, since AI and machine learning are relatively new concepts and still growing. Then you have challenges with the adoption and integration with existing technologies, higher costs, that kind of thing. Maintaining consistent performance and quality, regulatory compliance is a hurdle, and then continuous flow is a relatively new approach, and there's a lack of well-established processes, etc. So one thing I will say is that typically, a lot of times in market research, because I work in the pharmaceutical and medical device industry as a market researcher, people don't give us very clear-cut and very complete answers. Sometimes I get three words or things like that when you ask a question. But I will say that all the respondents gave very thoughtful, very thorough answers whenever they were interviewed and did the survey. So here, the top bubble, limited adoption implementation, where the bubbles are on the chart, just is really kind of telling you how to spell out and how often people mention these types of things. So you have advanced manpower training, regulatory hurdles over here, a high initial investment. So really, that limited adoption, high initial investment, and advanced training probably were the top three that came up, and limited testing and use of periods. Now we'll talk about this. This is a wordy slide. I know there's a lot of text on here. So they talked about reduction in production time, right? So they thought shorter production times could reduce total production time from months to weeks. This is people's actual thoughts about this. And they think it could be more cost effective, price competition in the market. And they have adopted, some people said they have recently adopted advanced manufacturing technology, and it's a whole new concept, helping them improve, making it less time consuming, providing better productivity, all those kind of things. And the ability to improve safety protocols, that came up again too. So you can see where some of those bubbles showed up, just because we took all this data and kind of classified it into buckets that you can look at. And then the incorporation of advanced technology, it says it could enhance quality of products. They are talking about using robotics and automation to reduce errors and things like that. They think about new technology to helps better the manufacturing practices and improve their production process. They feel like the pharmaceutical industry has revolutionized due to continuous manufacturing and opting for advanced manufacturing techniques. And then the final column there is reduced environmental impact. So they think their API will save production times, reduce the manufacturing footprint. It's beneficial for the environment. They can use it with other methods in order to even continue to improve on their environmental impact. They feel like they can reduce the workforce product deviation and their manufacturing footprint. Manufacturing footprint came up several times in some of the discussions that we had. And then they were talking about improving quality and safety levels in key areas and strengthening their overall production capabilities. All right, so this one says continuous flow manufacturing users. So these were people who were specifically using continuous flow. So they talked about some of the same things came up, but maybe not necessarily in the same order. So you have reduction in production, reduced production time, reduced manufacturing environmental footprint, and incorporation of advanced technology. So if you look at the reduced production time, they said it's continuous, the cost will be reduced. I think continuous manufacturing rather than in batches will reduce overall production time, and we're already using it, so it has many advantages, and the improved efficiency is one of the things that they cited. And then on the manufacturing footprint and environmental footprint, overall processes are better, require less space, the manufacturing footprint will get reduced, the production will improve efficiency, making the process less costly and more cost efficient. chemistry, so the environmental impact came up there. Waste will be less, which they think is one of the key things that probably will impact their ability to be more environmentally friendly. And then incorporating, people talked about their companies providing advanced manufacturing services to them so that they could implement those technologies themselves. And they believe it's going to be beneficial and that it will improve the current supply chain. They think advanced technologies can cause a significant change in manufacturing. It'll ease the process and provide more flexibility to companies, and that advanced techniques are a game changer. They foster innovation, and reliance on automation reduces the chances of error. So you'll see a lot of the same things coming up in the quotes that we picked out of the trade scripts. People who have experience with both. So they, again, reduce production time, improve quality with continuous flow, and incorporation of advanced technology. So some of the same things are coming up over and over with all 40 respondents. So, it minimizes production time, better quality, time from raw material to final product is reduced. Overall product quality and incorporation would benefit reduction in the production time. It's an advantage because batch processes take time. And then when we talk about the improved product quality with continuous flow, they specifically mentioned improved overall product quality and incorporating other technologies into AI and machine learning. It came up a lot in the conversations that they had with physicians. They have nominal changes, which helps for better quality control. They also can ensure each batch. That's my fault. I should call that. My apologies. Okay. The adoption of new technologies and incorporating advanced technology. Manufacturing enhances the efficiency and output and quality. They said new and advanced technologies will increase scalability and efficiency. Advanced technologies are important to improve the production status in the U.S. And new technologies are currently being used in some of their sites. So this is one of those people that uses both batch and continuous flow. And they said, I think they are great for enhancing the production cycle and reducing their overall costs. And the integration has proven to be an added advantage for them. Okay, now that's it then, you guys. I think that I managed to do it.
Good morning, everyone. It's Andrea Adamo. I'm an engineer by education, and 10 years ago I started a company called Zypoflow Technologies to commercialize technologies for continuous manufacturing. So my role here is really to foster some conversation and discussion about the data that we see that this group has generated. Thank you for great presentation and insight in the field. So what do we learn? I think there's a lot of things to learn. There was one that did strike my attention. 53% of responders utilized both batch and flow. In all honesty, I would not have expected such a big number. It is very likely that there's a difference in frequency of utilization. Perhaps they use it once a year, perhaps they use it every day. We don't know that, but they're familiar, they have it in the cloud. The other thing that was also very refreshing for me to hear is the fact that there is consensus on the wide range of benefits that this type of approach can bring to the table. And importantly, there is willingness and openness to invest and adopt new technologies. And so then the question that comes to mind is, if the numbers are this, and we are not talking anymore about an esoteric, some strange thing that nobody has heard of. Everybody has heard of advanced continuous technologies. What are the hindrances to adoption, and what can we do? And so from the survey, what we learn is that the key perceived barriers are topics related to FDA requirements, time to update process, training, and cost of investment. So what I wanted to do here is really see if, as a group, we can have a conversation and try to see what can we do differently to increase technology adoption rate and get closer to the aims that the API Center set for itself. And so I have put down a few things more for the sake of fostering conversation. I guess it's my own bias, perhaps. I don't want the conversation to be biased, though we have to start from somewhere. So I encourage you to speak up. I want to start with education. Education is always king. You cannot do something that you don't know, so you have to learn somehow. The thought that came to mind is talking about education in college, the workforce. Do they know what this advanced manufacturing is? Perhaps opportunities for professionals, people that have been 20 years in the field. Do they have to self-teach, or do they have tools and means to quickly get up to speed on new techs? And the last one was actually a thought on management. Is new tech not adopted because, simply put, management doesn't understand it? It wasn't exposed in the early years. Now they're in their 50s, they don't understand it, they don't get it, and so they won't approve it, simply put. And so, I don't know, if you guys have ideas, things that you want to share, I'd like this to be a discussion more than me sharing my own personal views. Please, Brian.
So we are starting to see universities like the University of Syracuse offer opportunities for students to take continuous flow or advanced manufacturing courses in the undergrad, and also can do graduate programs associated with that. I guess the question is, where would we want the focus to be? Would it be with continuous flow only, or do we want more AI folks? Do we want someone that's studying digital twins? What part of advanced manufacturing I think is the best area of focus, gives us the biggest bang for the buck?
In my opinion,
In your opinion?
So, in my opinion, I think that college students should be brought up with a familiarity at the very least. If you can grow into a new language if you have the basics. If you don't have the basics, that entry step is very difficult. So I think that new generations should be brought up with these concepts. For the AI domain, I think that they should be exposed to the extent that makes them capable of using AI tools. The AI revolution is starting now. We don't know exactly how it's going to end up, but they should be primed somehow. This would be my personal opinion. Anybody else want to share thoughts on education down there?
I'm pretty much. I think everybody.
Okay, that's good.
my thoughts are on education, but it's more about when you're thinking about adoption rates, you're thinking about things. You should really zoom out completely. So new technology, whether it's an API, whether it's in AAV or gene or CAR-T or whatever it is, or anything across the world in pharma. When you have something new, you're going to have barriers behind it. So what are those barriers? So people don't want to adopt things quickly. So usually smaller companies more adapt new processes or new APIs or new things are the easiest way to have that white space to look for to build. When you have something that's mature and older, it is great input in the end, but you have to get that ball rolling. You got to get the momentum. So the best way is to find the smaller, nimble spots to show proof of concept, keep building through that, because at the end of the day, it's going to help you with everything that you're doing all the time, but you've got to show that. So in the surveys that you look at and see, yes, people that are in the know want to do that, but you still have people in there that have the money in hand, or they're concerned about what it means to the bottom line of the total company. So when you look at that, you have to convince them. The best way to do that is a pilot program that shows this is the way to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you. So in summary, the challenge is displacing the incumbent. The smaller, nimbler organizations may be more agile in generating those data that provide proof of concept.
And we're a copycat industry across everything. As soon as someone gets any kind of traction, everyone goes for it. Look at indications, look at anything in the whole process.
So basically, we have to look for small organizations and people that have money willing to support this change. Not to trivialize, to summarize.
This might be a little more general than what you're looking for, but
I've been having conversations with a lot of folks, and whether it's manufacturing, supply chain, transportation, logistics, etc., getting that engagement before college. So having the uncles, the students, the WashUs go to high schools and talk about what manufacturing jobs actually are and how there's technology involved in it, not just in pharma manufacturing and tennis shoe manufacturing, but all along the way. So when kids get to college, they've already got this experience. Maybe there's hands-on things that they can do with the technology, utilizing those strengths. But to really grow those industries, I think we have to start before college and then really kind of let everybody know these aren't just dirty, grimy factory jobs. These are very cool jobs with high-level impact that you can be part of.
Thank you. So the suggestion is to start earlier on than college with education. Please. Loud enough?
I can speak on that. Thanks for us, Sam. I look at this as a talent lifecycle problem, a challenge, right? So you got to create an environment, I think, in an organization where, let's say you have an established organization, you have people there maybe 20 plus years, and if you have a system that doesn't incentivize them to continuously be curious on the latest technologies out there, and you let that be the culture, you're going to get eaten up by your competitors. So you've got to at least create a culture where there's continuous education, is an expectation as a part of your employment. That's one. And so great organizations, learning organizations require that, or at least expect that for their long-term employees. But also infuse that workforce with people that are coming right out of school with the new technology, so there's cross-fertilization. Not only people that are already there, have to feel like they're staying up to date on the latest current methods that are being advanced in their profession, but you're infusing new workforce members that are coming in already with that fresh perspective, and you're cross-fertilizing those people so that there could be some lessons learned about, hey, this is where we came from, but the new people can come in there and say, hey, this is what I just learned from school, and I can apply it here, and I can show you. So I think you have to have a combination of those. So I think we have to approach it like we look at a supply chain, where you can't just let products kind of sit on the shelf and not really check it for stability once in a while. You gotta kind of shake it up, and you gotta test it. And you gotta see if it's actually still useful. If they're not gonna be curious to learn, then that's where management has to make the decision. Maybe those people just have to exit and bring in new people to replace them. And it's really a mindset you have to establish, I think, in a culture to do this. And I think the third thing is awareness of where your competitors are adopting this technology. Right? Because if you're not aware that other competitor organizations are adopting this technology and you're going to be displaced in the marketplace, you're going to be out of a job. Your whole organization is going to suffer. So I think that awareness of your competitors happening.
Okay, so you're suggesting company culture that fosters innovation and growth, cross-fertilization through new workforce and people that have new ideas or new knowledge, and watching your competitors so that you don't get out of business, essentially. Another thing that was raised, there's a hand there, give me a second. Another thing that was raised was challenges related to time, learning new skills and new technology. So what I want to add to the conversation is this layer of time and risk management. What can be done in order to de-risk tech adoption? I guess we had some ideas coming early on with the pilot programs, and what could reduce time to update processes. I think there was a hand raised down there.
Well, my comment was back to the education piece. So I spent the first decade of my career in adult education, and I would say from the perspective of college, I would add in a core class that's required, whether it's from engineering or from chemistry or biology, these STEM careers, could add it in a core class related to advanced manufacturing. And then from the perspective of courses for professionals and management, I think that it would be very thoughtful to create both workshops for continuing education. I believe a lot of engineers are required to continue that, at least in the state of Missouri. And then as far as courses for management, I think it's a great idea to develop certificate programs. So certificate programs have been very popular for like MBAs and such. It doesn't require the commitment that a full master's degree would require. But maybe you take 3, 4, 5 thoughtful classes related to advanced manufacturing, and it can be very helpful. So that was my comment.
So basically, create mechanisms that force people to have to learn, keep themselves updated, including compulsory classes in college. I don't know if somebody from academia wants to comment on that.
Yeah, it's just so the Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry at the University of St. Louis follows the ACS certified curriculum. The ACS kind of pushes various concepts into the curriculum, so we've had to adopt the curriculum to include a number of different subjects. So one of the ways to promote this is to get into the professional organizations and have them promote the adoption of these kind of technologies. So it's really a matter of, is the ACS promoting continuous flow and advanced manufacturing part of the curriculum? If they are, because we want to keep our certification, we're then required to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway, but it's.
But so implicitly, you're making an argument. So I don't know if everybody heard. What was said is that the ACS sets the standard for curricula at university to be followed, and flow chemistry is not part of those curricula. But this implicitly makes an argument for suggesting ACS to add something to the.
I think one of the other things to reduce risk is to say, how much of this am I embrace? Am I going to do continuous flow manufacturing, advanced analytics, or is there a little bit less regulatory risk that I'm willing to take? And I've seen that happen where I've worked with a company where they use continuous flow or fusion harvest to produce their product, but they have a traditional batch method of releasing that. They collect product over 10 days, and they batch it all, and then they release it all in one huge lot. Their phase 1 lot has 500,000 doses in it, and it literally could be their phase 1, their phase 2, their phase 3, and part of their launch, because they've got so much material. But they use traditional batch methods for release. I think maybe it's how much risk am I willing to take? And what are the technologies that I can embrace within that risk for today? Once I'm comfortable with it, okay, what's the next risk I can bring into my manufacturing situation?
Thank you. I think this points out that risk is very serious, of course, in decision-making process, and yet the challenge of displacing the incumbent, which may not be optimal, but at least you know and you can govern.
If I may,
Yes.
We're here later today from the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center, but I think it's not just about what we're going to educate in college. Industry, if companies aren't using it, then the training that is going to occur is not going to be needed in colleges. So we have to figure out how we are working with industry to drive innovation. That means how to de-risk it and accelerate it. So once again, the group will be later today is the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center, which will be built here in St. Louis specifically for those purposes, de-risking and accelerating innovation. And part of that is by working across industries to learn from each other, and how something that might be used in one industry can accelerate the learning curve in another industry and reduce their cost for that innovation. So once again, I don't want to present a presentation that will be done later, but it has to be what is industry going to be using, and how do we help industry understand, because part of it, going to what the gentleman just said, is the cost and the risk for that industry to adopt the technology, and also how to understand, because if they change one piece of equipment, what impact does that have on everything else? How do we help them with that whole change? And that is something that APMTC is specifically working around and with to accomplish.
Thank you. So I'll add one more layer, that is the layer of cost. What is the critical cost barrier? Is it, so I made here a list of equipment, more for the brain teaser, It's the perception of the cost of a pump, the cost of the reactor, the cost of a heat exchanger. It's a single item, or actually it's the bundle of elements that becomes cost. And cost is a true excuse, because on the other side you have already paid assets that, that's it's a sunk cost already. How does this variable play in the game? Is it a true excuse? It's a true factor. It's actually a little bit of an excuse, because it really ties to the risk and the knowledge elements that kind of overtake the decision-making process and put a brake on innovation. Those.
I think it's return on investment. So I think for manufacturers, for them to have a return on investment on a product line that may not be yielding huge profit, may be difficult for them to make the business case, to be able to buy the pumps and the reactors and be able to put PAT in place. All that's going to take an antiquated line that they may be utilizing for the next 2 to 3 years and may not be able to get a return on investment anytime soon. So that, to me, I think is one of the biggest barriers that we have to overcome. And that's what APIC is doing, is taking away that risk, de-risking by helping invest in certain areas. But even with that, I think there's still some challenges that we need to overcome.
Very interesting. So Brian is suggesting that you need to have a solid value proposition in terms of return on investment. Can you articulate that at the company level in order to justify a purchase, please?
So, can you hear me? So, I want to take what you just said. So, I want to specifically talk about PAT. So, it really depends on what the company goal is when it comes to cost. So, if you are thinking about, okay, PAT is definitely going to be challenging, it's more cost, but if you think long term, when it comes to development, you're going to understand a lot more with PAT rather than doing so many experiments, putting in so much time and effort. So if the company sees that as a return of investment, yeah, you're definitely going to put in that cost up front. And on the DMP floor, if you're going to save so many batches or the spec batches just by having the data on PAT, then saving a failed batch, that's going to save you cost. So I would say it really depends on what the company goals are with respect to advanced technology. Are you really looking at the investment in the long term versus are you looking short term? Is what I mean.
Thank you. So if I may paraphrase, you're suggesting that not only ROI in terms of hard numbers should be considered, but also a longer term vision in which you realize the value of a cultural shift that is going to produce benefit. It's just going to take some more time.
I think another thing to consider here is you said smaller companies might be more innovative and more likely to embrace these innovations. But there's some risk adversity there. They're going to go to a CDMO who's going to manufacture for them. They're going to go, you've done a batch of this, how many have you done? Oh, we've done analysis of this. You've got this continuous manufacturing process. How much have you done of that with 5 to 10 times? Their CEO is probably going to go, I like that 1,000 number, 1,000's number better than I like that 5 or 10. Is that a risk we want to take with our asset when we've got one critical asset that we're trying to develop? So I think that's part of the pushback on increasing adoption.
Very interesting comment. So this, I call it the chicken and egg problem. In our business, we see it all the time. So we go to pharma and they say, you have beautiful technology, but we outsource manufacturing. Our CMO doesn't have the tech. So next year. And then we go to the CMO and the CMO will tell us, but pharma is not asking for this. We will do what our customers want to see. And so it's a recursive thing that there's suggestions on how to get out of this, this chicken and egg.
Yeah, I've done the same project analysis in the past, and what I've seen with that technology is that it is chicken and egg. So smaller companies are willing to innovate more, but it's getting that proof point. And if you can find a major launch product which you can demonstrate those significant cost savings on, and then bring the new technology in partnership with the sponsor there, show that it works, get that published. I think to your comments earlier,
everybody wants to be first or be second with a new technology. Yep. And doing that proof point can then really open the floodgates so that people come in. So I think there's an organic way of growing, which is going to be a lot more slowly adopted by people, or there's finding those proof points, knocking out of the park on those, to get people to come to you.
So I guess there's a theme here. Now, this proof of concept, this generation of data and so on, who's going to pay for it? You know, it's a blunt question, but at the end of the day, somebody has to pay for it. So I can share our own journey. We've been doing flow chemistry, continuous manufacturing for more than 10 years. I personally started, it's almost 20 years ago, actually, with some programs at MIT when I was a postdoc there. And so there is literature in the field, that there's plenty of them. But, you know, with the new tech, every customer says, I want a demonstration. And so you put up the demonstration. It's, you know, it becomes financially draining. How do you accelerate it, and who's going to pay eventually? So because this in the end drives up the cost of the instrumentation, because all those demonstrations that we are doing in order to benefit the customers, somehow we have to make the money back. Any ideas on how to foster the financial cycle?
Think about the numbers, like big companies or like small companies. Sometimes the decision making, if it is like coming from the management, they always look for the numbers or like what history has been made. So as he mentioned, like if you are approaching the CDMO, if the traditional process has been successful for many years and you are looking for a new technology, there will be always, obviously there will be some yes. So there is a no. So I feel that we need to have companies who are using these new technologies. We need to come up for an avenue that we can collaborate and we can share the stories. We can talk about the success so that these big pharmas or other companies who are saying that they are nearly yes, they can hear that, they can see the numbers, we can give that confidence to the other companies. That may be a great way to approach, but the companies are like staying very near end to the ends or embracing those technologies. I feel that's something significant.
Thank you for the comment. So basically sharing information. I have my own comment here. We have many of our customers actually that do not want to share because they see the adoption of, I speak for our case, our technologies as a competitive advantage. So that of course is pleasing to see as a vendor, a technology manufacturer, but of course it stifles the field.
So I look at this and say, let's take a step back to manufacturing a lot of clinical trial material to support phase 1 clinical trials. We're looking to dose about 30 patients. We have a well-entrenched mechanism within the pharmaceutical industry to manufacture that at the batch level because it's 30 patients. It's not a whole lot. When we look to advance that therapeutic to phase 2 or phase 3, are we going to introduce another element of risk in that clinical trial by switching manufacturing techniques? I don't know if anyone just chooses yes to introduce risk when they move on to phase 2 clinical trial. We're looking to dose now, let's call 300 potential patients, and then 3,000 for phase 3. So if we can introduce it earlier in the pharmaceutical development process, phase 1 clinical trials being the real genesis of this, then yes, subsequent manufacturing, as we look to scale up full commercial lot release, and then let's call 15 years later, generic production, it makes a lot more sense. But it's got to start at phase 1 to make it more easily accessible later throughout the development and commercialization process.
Thank you for the comment. You actually put the finger on another pain point that we do see in the field. So what we see is that technology either gets adopted early on or basically doesn't have a chance because of the very issue of locking in a process. We have seen many cases in which it's done for the phase 1 clinical trial, and the advantage of continuous flow is that you use the same equipment, you just run it for longer and you get more doses. So there's an inherent benefit if you had started early on. Thank you.
Completely agree, but if we look amongst industry, there's a lot more batch capacity than there's flow.
Sure. Yes.
So I think that's all I had personally prepared for conversation here. And I think we're doing fine on time. I don't know, Brian, if you want to wrap up.
Yes, we are. First off, thanks to Andrea and Tammy. Definitely a very good conversation, and this is something that we were hoping we could get from this group. We have industry, we have the solutions as far as equipment manufacturers here together, and I think a lot of the things that we do is really that synapse between the two. And Andrea has done a wonderful job of stimulating the audience, thinking about the type of things that the survey has presented to us. This is the foundation. This is something we can utilize and we plan to utilize in the future. So thank you, Tammy, for all the hard work putting that together. I think we got some great material to start with.